All right, we'll give it just a moment here, folks. Make sure we have a signal. All right, we should have a transmission about now, folks. I get a confirmation we have a stream here. There we go. All right. Today is Monday, April 28th, 2025. Thank you for this lunchtime drive time edition. Another broadcast of the Fullerton Informer with your host, Joe Imbriano, coming to you live from the overcast streets of Southern California here on this last Monday in April 2025. What a morning. What a day. And there's never a dull moment when we are being treated like a bunch of rats in a maze, right? That's controlled and corralled in a massive prison complex, right? I guess in Europe today, there's this big mess because the power went out and the airports aren't working, the rail's not working. They don't know what's going on. They're blaming temperature variations. They're blaming atmospheric phenomenon. Anything but the truth, right, folks? All right. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834, on the web at thefullertoninformer.com and WiFiDangers.com, 5GDangers.com, CellTowerDangers.com, a whole bunch of sites, folks. Coming to you in the name of Jesus Christ, coming to you in the name of truth, and just kind of trying to give information to people that are confused by headlines and maybe not fully aware of the entirety of the realm that we find ourselves living in here. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about electricity, folks. And, you know, people have a pretty good understanding that if you plug something into the wall and you turn on the switch, voila, the light comes on, or the radio comes on, or the toaster, toasts your bagel or whatever, right? But what if I told you that the actual energy doesn't even run inside the wire, but outside the wire, right? What if I told you that the states of matter that you understand exist, like, well, everybody knows about a solid, right? A liquid, right? A gas, right? Let's take water. Ice, right? It's a solid. Steam, gas. Liquid water's a liquid, right? There's another state of matter, folks. It's called plasma. And, by and large, you don't get educated in the science of plasma. Most people don't understand electrodynamics, understand magnetobiology, and their frame of reference and understanding is limited to the three common states of matter. And things work by a very rudimentary understanding that they've been taught. And it's not your fault. It's not their fault. It's just the way the system is designed to keep you in the dark. Now, I will tell you that these power outages are not an accident, folks. There's no such thing as an accident when we have systems that are this sophisticated. And to be honest with you, when I got to work on either changing out a GFCI or swapping out an outlet, I got to throw off the breaker, right? And so when I throw off the breaker, whether it either it's a breaker on a sub panel at my house or the main breaker, or, just one of the 20 amp circuits to one of the parts of the house, the power goes off everywhere I want it to go off, folks. And it's not an accident that when I throw that switch, the outlets go dead. And there have been times when I was repairing something and I flipped a breaker and out comes one of my children. Hey, Dad, what's going on? What did you do? Right? And they don't know what happened, but I flipped the switch and they didn't realize it. Well, you see, folks, there are a lot of switches to flip in the systems that we rely on. And there are a lot of ways to flip that switch. They can do it remotely because every electronic device in the world, folks, literally has a back door. That's right. Oh, you think it's the communist Chinese, do you? Oh, you think it's the Russians, do you? Oh, you think it's the Soviets? Oh, yeah. Oh, it's the North Koreans, right? It's the deniers of Jesus Christ, folks, who create the wind-up toys in the back doors. And their goal is to get wars going, to get everybody to kill each other, because that's the plan. And so they want us fighting and starting wars and attacking and blowing things up. And if that doesn't work, if they can't get us to nuke, then they'll blow stuff up and blame it on one of them. It's called a false flag. So there are a lot of potential angles to shutting off the electricity, folks. And, you know, they could blame aliens. They could blame a terrorist attack. They could blame hackers. They could blame extreme weather. They could say it's because we're burning too much, quote unquote, fossil fuel. And they could say that it's climate change. Or they could say that our reliance on antiquated systems of generating electrical power, such as coal and petroleum and, you know, gas, are the problem. They could say that it's, you know, there's a problem with the nuclear systems. They could blame anything they want, folks. The reason I'm making this video and telling you about what's is, you know, they finally got the average person. I'll tell you, I had a friend of mine yesterday. I might as well throw this in. You know, I transplanted about, I don't know, 20 tomato plants yesterday. And, you know, I'm growing these tomato plants in these 5-gallon nursery pots. And when I put the compost in there and mix it with the dirt and the fireplace ashes and the coffee grinds and the eggshells and the composted leaves and everything else, the average weight of one of these 5-gallon nursery pots is about 60 pounds. And I had to have them lifted up and put on top of a wall. And so I had this friend of mine who was talking to me. I had him turn over the dirt on a couple of them, and, you know, he couldn't even carry them, and he didn't know how to turn the dirt over. And he's all, what do you do now? I'm like, well, you do this, that. What's this? Well, you put this in the bottom, you put this in the middle, then you mix this all up, then you put it in there, and then, okay, well, what do I do? I said, carry it over there and lift it up. So where's the dolly? I mean, we've been so emasculated to where we can't even, most people don't even know how to reclaim soil and organic waste and compost and when to plant, when to transplant, you know, what soil types are required for what types of vegetables and trees, etc. They've got us pushing buttons and having things delivered to us. We have no concept of anything anymore. We are now living in flowers for Algernon, right? Everything is a Pavlovian system. It's a maze. It's a matrix. And we don't have a clue what's on the outside of the din-din bell surroundings, right? We are literally just hand them out at the push of a button now. And now they're showing their hand and they're flexing again. Because, okay, you want to go to Europe and, you know, fly into Rome and visit the countryside and then, you know, go take a cruise and, you know, cruise up the Rhine and, you know, go have your Scandinavian whatever. I don't know. I've never been over there doing all that. But what I'm saying is it's possible. If you have enough money, you could go on a website, push a couple of buttons on the website, and then enter a bunch of numbers on the website, and then push enter, and then guess what? All of a sudden, you get to be transported to one of these places, and you have this magical experience. Well, guess what? It's all interdependent on stuff that they have set up, on stuff that they control, on stuff that they can shut off any time they want, because it ain't yours. You think you have all these rights and you have all these privileges because you have all this money. It's only because they're allowing you to do what they are allowing you to do. When it comes time to drastically change things, they'll just shut the power off. They'll blame a cyber attack. They'll blame a weather phenomenon. They'll blame extreme weather like they're doing this. Oh, we don't know what happened. Let's see. When the power goes out of my house, the first thing I look at is, I get guess we should probably tell if the electric meter's still spinning. Yeah, I got one of those analog meters still, you know, the thing that turns. I don't have one of those weaponized smart meters that they can detonate your flammable refrigerant-laced air conditioners and such forth. They can't blow my house up with that. But my point is the first thing I do is I go and look at that, right? Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. There are no accidents, and I've been saying for a long time, you know, look, stock up on food, have a backup systems for energy, have some water stored up. I don't care if you live in a motorhome. I don't care if you live in an apartment. I don't care if you live in a condo, a townhome, a P&D. I don't care if you live in a house or a mansion, a triplex, a duplex. I don't care what you live in. You have the ability to use your noggin and make preparation for when they decide to flip a switch and screw us over. And it may be a long, protracted event. It may be a short-term event. But there are concerns over the normal concerns when this kind of thing happens, and that is the unthinkable, the dark ages returning, the looting, the bedlam, the hoodlums, right? And, you know, we worry about, you know, how long is this going to last? When are the officials going to fix the problem? You know what? They're involved in the problem, folks. It's hilarious. They'll all make their little hand sign when they get on the news, or, you know, the district attorney will make his little hand sign before he does a press conference. Or, you know, the mayor's got the Masonic ring on, and, you know, the guys in the background, you know, they're all watching in their black suits with their beady little eyes. You know, they all know what's going on. They're all working together. They're all working for the people that print the money. They've all been bought off. They've all been blackmailed. They've all been videotaped having sex with children. And they're all on the take and under their control. And folks, when they say something happens and they tell you why it happened, that's a bunch of nonsense. They're playing around. They're toying around. This is going to become a more widespread thing. It's just like labor pains. You ladies that went into labor, you know how it is to deliver a child. You go into this travail of these contractions. They start, then they stop, and then they get bigger, and they get closer together and more frequent. That's what they're doing. They're acclimating us to these events, folks. And when they have one, it's going to be like the aliens are here, and there's a virus that they brought, and, you know, we've got to take drastic measures. We've got to, you know, we've got to close off this city and incinerate it with all the people inside it, or, you know, we've got to take drastic measures where we've got to quarantine everybody and vaccinate everybody, medically treat everybody, or whatever. Or they could say, oh, you know, the Russians did this, or the Iranians did this, or, you know, they'll blame some group that they want our military to go bomb back to the Stone Age, right? Just like they did on 9/11. It's the same old song and dance. We got the same administration in Washington as we did back in 2000. It's the same group of bloodthirsty, Christ-denying murderers. That's what they are. And nothing's changed. It's just the Bolshevik Revolution coming back at us. Oh, yeah, we got this supposed, you know, disease that's affecting the, you know, the cattle. And it's, you know, it's like this necrotizing disease that, you know, so now the cattle aren't going to come into the United States from Mexico and South America. We're not going to have meat imports. See what they're doing, folks? They're, you know, first it's the bird flu nonsense, and, you know, now they start killing all the birds and chickens and everything else. Even though the mockingbirds and blue jays and cowbirds and sparrows and finches and ravens and owls and hummingbirds are all just having a blast at my house, right? I haven't seen one dead bird unless it was in my cat's mouth, okay? So, you know, this whole bird flu thing, it's a bunch of nonsense. It's just to get rid of the food supply. And, you know, when they have these power outages and they torture everybody, what they're doing is a couple of things, folks. The first thing they're doing is seeing how stupid and unprepared everybody is, and just how much they're in the palm of the hands of the controllers. And I'll tell you, if you're on vacation in Europe and, you know, you're getting on a plane and you're going to another country to go catch your cruise ship, you've got a problem right now, right? And, you know, they love to inflict this misery and show their power over us. And they love to just disrupt everything and make our lives miserable. And they love to watch us as we suffer and, flail and flounder around in our helplessness and act all stupid and like throw ourselves at the feet of these people that wrap themselves in the flags as they pose as our saviors, when they've got the knife to our throat in the process, as they've convinced everyone to be fully dependent on a cashless society control grid for their food, their water, their sustenance, their self-defense, their existence. Their whole life is depending upon a series of numbers and buttons, right? And when they go and they look and they realize that, oh my gosh, what's going to happen if they don't fix this? And then all of a sudden, you hear all the noise at night. Then you start hearing the screams in the dark, right? Then you hear gunshots somewhere, right? Then you hear glass breaking, right? And then you hear other gunshots, right? And then you realize, I don't own a firearm. What am I going to do if they come to my house and it's dark? See what they've done, folks? They've trained you not to defend yourself. They've trained you to be dependent on their electrical system. They've trained you to be dependent on their computer system. They've trained you to be dependent on their grocery stores full and the cash registers working. All right? And so what do they got to do? Poof, they push a button, right? And guess what they get to do? They get to do about 10 things, right? Because once the power goes out, let's start with the first thing. Well, they get to move around all kinds of military equipment in the dark as you're all scared. And, the trains will be rolling on certain tracks when supposedly the railroads aren't working. But they'll have all kinds of troop movement and infrastructure movement where they'll move stuff around in the dark. That's what they did during the COVID lockdowns. I got video of it. All this military equipment being moved around. And God knows where it's at now. And then the second thing they get to do is they get to see just how reliant you are on every order they give you, because you're going to sit there and watch everything on television and do what you're told when you're told to do it, how high you're going to jump and where you're going to line up to go get what you need. The third thing they're going to do is they're going to be able to tell you just how serious this climate change problem is and how evil your fireplace is, and, and your heater is, and your gas stove is, and your portable camping stove is, and your wood-burning stove is, and how evil your car is, and how evil your generator is, and how evil your butane torch is, how evil your candles are, and how evil your compost pile is, and how evil your garden soil is, how evil the cows belching and eating meat is, and how evil the human respiration process is, because you're exhaling CO2. You see this weather. So, and then they get to tell you, oh my gosh, there's this, these terrorists, these evil terrorists, these terrorist groups that have been funded and trained and created by your tax dollars. And, they got all these cyber hackers that they blame on the North Koreans. And, they don't tell you about the Talpiot program out of Israel and how all these high school seniors that are absolute geniuses are learning how to hack everything, right? They always blame the Russians or the North Koreans or something, right? And so then we have a situation where you can go through your old album collections, right? Your old 33 1/3 LPs, right? All the records from the 70s and the 60s. And then you can look at all of the plasma events on all the album covers and all the rock and roll. That's right. You can see all of the plasma events, all this weird artwork that you never knew what it was. And you sang along with this satanic trash all these years, and yet they're predicting these plasma events that they're going to run, and they're going to laugh at you, right? And these plasma events, well, if you need to know what a plasma event is, just look up the Carrington event that they ran back in the early 1800s. It smoked all the telegraphs and lit up the sky for weeks. Folks, Tesla was toying around with all these towers that were pulling all kinds of electricity out of the air, the atmosphere. They have been able, look at the Tunguska event where they leveled the forest for 100 miles around with this big crater with no debris in it, right? They have the ability to create these scalar waves these plasma events. They have all of these weapons that they have, and they get to play with them, and they get to toy around with them, and then they blame some boogeyman or some guy driving a 31-year-old BMW 4-cylinder that burns mid-grade gasoline, right? That's got 140,000 miles on it, named Joe Imbriano. I'm this evil guy because I go to the gas station, or I'm this evil guy because I have a gas stove in my backyard, or I have a fire pit, or I have a fireplace, or I eat meat. Oh, I'm evil because I'm causing the climate change. You know what's causing the climate change, folks? The weapons that your children created by going to college and working for these defense contractors. All right, that's climate change. Hang on for just a second here. Quick water break, because if I talk for a half hour, my voice tends to get a little tired. All right, hope you guys are all here. All right, I'm back. All right, can you see me all? All right. So they have a lot of things they can do. They can say, well, we got an emergency on our hands, and I think we need to evacuate this area. Because we got to move everybody out of here until we get the martial law situation cleared up, and we have to relocate you, or folks, they could take this thing anywhere they want, anytime they want. And what I'm telling you, and the reason I'm doing this video, is you got to be prepared for this stuff. Okay. I'm not going to deny the fact that my wife and I, we go to the prison commissary on the weekends. We go to Costco, that Masonic warehouse. Because why? Because they have everything you need there. And while I'm not a big fan of the management or the ownership or the color scheme or even the ideology of the corporation, I certainly don't have the ability to procure a lot of those things myself. So there is a time and a place for shopping. But I will tell you that about 90% of the stuff in that place, maybe 95% of the stuff in that place, is totally unnecessary to even look at, purchase, or own, because it serves no purpose. When the rubber actually has to meet the road, that stuff is junk. The stuff that you need, there's one way to find out what you need, ladies and gentlemen. You do the following very simple thing, okay? I don't care where you live. You shut off your water, and you shut off your electricity, and you will figure out really quick what you need. Now, if you're really gutsy and you're really serious, do it for a whole 24-hour period. Matter of fact, do it for a couple of days and just see how prepared you are. Now, then you got to think about the unthinkable, and that is when the hordes of all the unprepared get desperate. Okay? You don't want to think about this, do you? You just want to think about planning your vacation and saving up enough money to, maybe go buy one of those electric cars so you can wax it on Sunday morning like my circus clown neighbors, right? Let me tell you something, folks. You're going to find out real quick, because they're just getting warmed up. If you haven't seen the Hunger Games, you need to watch it, because that's the model. And the timeline for that, and by the way, I'm not Hal Lindsey. I'm not, one of these dispensationalist prophecy experts giving you the day that the world's going to come to an end. How many times would that guy have 5 wives? Was that guy divorced like 4 times? I love these Christian celebrities that are, they get married like 5 times. What a bunch of clowns, right? I'm not setting a date. I'm telling you 2030 is the date that the Hunger Games model is to begin, because the Agenda 2030 is a widely understood timeline. And all these NGOs and all of these non-governmental organizations and high-level people, that's the target date when they're going to have us bombed out back to the Stone Age, hand-to-mouth existence, cashless society, total, inverted utopia for them only, right? as you know, the population's reduced from starvation and war and cyber attacks and plasma events. They got it, folks. Why do you think? This is probably something I need to talk about. Why do you think they're going after the 33rd parallel? Why do you think they run all these false flags and use our military to go bomb everyone on the 33rd parallel back to the Stone Age, right? Well, I'll tell you why. Because, by the way, the Earth's flat. We don't have pole shifts, folks. We have plasma events. The Earth doesn't flip its magnetic field, okay? This thing is not a spinning ball. There is no South Pole magnetism polarity. There's only magnetic north, ladies and gentlemen, which is the center of this circular plane, okay? There is no pole shift, nonsense, folks. What happens, well, I might as well, all right? What happens during the plasma events is the 33rd parallel is probably the only safe place to be, all right? And so that's why, just look up what's on the 33rd parallel, okay? That's the safest place to be when these atmospheric phenomena take place. Sometimes they occur naturally. They can also be induced, which is frightening because they have the ability to induce a plasma event that literally, if you understand what plasma is and what plasma weapons can do and what massive amounts of plasma can do, it's horrifying. And if you look, I'll tell you what, I spend a lot of time in thrift stores, and I don't buy those records, but I sure look at the covers, and it's pretty gross what they've done to us, especially some of these people that they've been shoving in our faces, these women, like since the 70s. I forget that one lady's name. She never got married. She's really ugly, and they just push her on everything and everybody, and they got her in shorts, and she's just gross, right? But a lot of the music industry is just all the music industry is a bunch of trash. But there's a lot of symbolism in the album sleeve artwork and the album covers, okay? And there is a lot of reference to plasma events in the music industry's artwork. Just telling you, and the songs, the lyrics are very cryptic. It's heavy duty Kabbalah telling us what they're going to do in advance to us. That's all it is. That's what it is. So, but you got to be prepared, folks. And the weather's only going to get crazier, and these problems are only going to get more frequent, and you're going to get more worn down to the point where you're just going to throw yourselves prostrate at the feet of these monsters unless you're prepared. And that's why I'm doing this video today, folks. I'm not here to give you all the answers as to why, but I'll tell you how they're doing it. It's either the flip of a switch. They're either typing in some code in a computer, triggering this to be shut down, or, they could be running some sort of a plasma event or running some sort of scalar weapon that's smoking a few transistors or substations here or there, or they could just be flipping a switch and telling you what they want you to believe. The question is why do you believe it when everything they tell you is a lie anyway? The reason Joe Imbriano's here this morning is to get you prepared, folks. First and foremost, your faith in Jesus Christ must be at the center of your life. And once that happens, you won't be afraid. You'll have wisdom. You'll know what to do. You'll know how to act and when to act and what to do when the time comes and what to say when you're asked. But if you're going to sit in front of a psychotronic, electronic, television Ouija board called a smart TV controlled by the deniers of Jesus Christ all the time, then you're a dead man walking, okay? You're going to get it. They're going to let you have it, folks. Because if you're stupid enough to sit there and suck all that filth into your body and your brain and your eyes and your heart, then you deserve what they're going to do to you, okay? For those in my audience that know better, and for those of you who know better, and for those of you who've been born again by the Spirit of God through Jesus Christ and have his wisdom and his power and his fearlessness, this message should come as no shock to you. But for those of you who deny and don't want to believe, well, there's a pig pen they've prepared for you. And then once that dries up, then you can go straight to hell, because that's where you're heading. And I'm not kidding, folks. And they got plans for hell on earth, and I'm not kidding about that either. Just watch the movies, look at the video games, listen to the music, look at the magazine covers, look at everything they talk about. Death and destruction and dismemberment is everything that they're all about, folks. That's what they live for. That's who they serve. They are of their father, the devil, who was a liar and a murderer from the beginning, folks. It's not me, it's them. I'm warning you. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to shut this broadcast down right now. All right? It's been a good broadcast this morning. Take care.